Now, there's a royal message from you. It's from His Majesty Ogami Atuashe III, the Olu of Warri, and Her Majesty Olori Atuashe III, the Queen Consort of Warri Kingdom. They are the founders of Elevate Africa, and they packaged this message just for you.
Elevate Africa isn't about shifting perceptions. It's about crafting a new reality. We bring together thought leaders and innovators to spark dialogue and drive action. We empower the next generation through fellowships that are more than just opportunities. They are catalysts for transformation. And through our think tanks, we are not just discussing ideas, we are engineering solutions for the challenges that we face as a continent. Two paths, one purpose. Whether it's through the World Wear Foundation or through Elevate Africa, my mission is unchanging: to elevate the lives of my people and to shine a light on Africa's boundless potential. We are rewriting the narrative of our continent, one that isn't confined by our past or even the struggles of our present, but one that is fueled by the promise of tomorrow. Our work is intricately aligned with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. From driving quality education to championing gender equality, from fostering economic growth to taking decisive action on climate change, everything we do is a step towards a shared global vision for sustainable development. So this isn't just for Africa, it's for the world. Because when Africa rises, humanity rises. But this is not a journey that I can take alone. I need you, my global family, to stand with us. Your voice, your support, your heart. Together, we can build a future where Africa's potential is not just realized, but celebrated, where our stories resonate across the globe, and where our impact is undeniable. So I invite you, join us on this journey of elevation and transformation. Let's not just dream of change, let us be the change. Through the Royal Wear Foundation and through Elevate Africa, I'm hoping that together we will rise. Together we will shape a future that is bright, not just for Africa, but for the world. Thank you.
I guess we can call that a royal invitation to shape the world together, coming from Her Majesty Olori Atuashe III. Now, let's talk more about Elevate Africa, what it's about, and perhaps you would find your place somewhere there. Following that royal invitation, we're having this discussion with Mr. Daniel Ikunobe. He is the lead consultant for Elevate Africa. We also have Dr. Akinpelu, senior consultant to the Office of His Majesty Ogami Atuashe III and Her Majesty Olori Atuashe III. You're welcome to the program, gentlemen. So let me start with you, Mr. Ikunobe, to tell us what Elevate Africa really is about. I know we did hear that invitation and the explanation of it, but in reality, help us to relate with it.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Please go ahead.
Great.
Okay, great.
Great. So I said that Elevate Africa is an initiative founded by His and Her Royal Majesties to help to elevate the narrative of Africa. One, how Africans see themselves, how they are perceived and received internationally. We want to change the narrative where Africa is not just on the receiving end, but that we are creating value, projecting our culture, and all of the great things happening across the continent. So we're bringing together leaders from across the continent, across industry, national leaders to come, and then we are helping to articulate clearly a new vision for the continent across various genres.
All right, Dr. Akibelu, we understand there are three cardinal pillars, for this, the Power Room Fellowship. Can you run us through this? So help us to understand what these cardinal pillars are and what they have to do with achieving this reshaping of the world, which we've heard about.
Thank you very much, Ine. I will just pick a cue from what Daniel just said. Is the vision of His or Royal Majesty. They are leaders on the continent. We call them transformational leaders, and they want to empower Africans. And for this to happen, a lot of systems thinking needs to come into place so that we get the right funnel so that we can bring about transformative change. So this is not just trying to work on the fruit on a tree, but trying to deal with things right from the root system. And this is going to come out from three platforms, which we call the pillars. The first one is what you call the convening. The convening is where we're telling our story. The convening is the first place to be able to get attraction to say, this is what we are discussing, this is what we are about, and we can get the buy-in of the world. So and that's why we are having the convening happening October 10th and 11th here in Abuja, Nigeria, for starters, for conversations to take place there. And in that place, you are going to have power rooms happening. You are going to have roundtable sessions. You are going to have general session and a lot more where we are going to be exhibiting everything about the African continent and the rich heritage. The second part of Elevate Africa is what you call the fellowship. Now, the fellowship is a part of the institution where you are bringing global ambassadors, mid-career level guys, and catalysts who are starters, just like a funnel, so that we can raise them to become a new generation of leaders. So this is going to be a well-tailored and bespoke African fellowship, one of its kind, that will bring about transformation for these people. And this is going to lead us to the third part, which is what is called the think tank, because here we're going to be driving research and innovative solutions right from the fellowships. These are the data that we're going to use to be able to transact with the African continent, to be able to produce what is called the homegrown solution for our own bespoke challenges. So if you look at that funnel, you find out that Elevate Africa is really on a mission to transform Africa and change the narration and the perspective around it, right from the convening to the fellowship program, then to the think tank. And I dare to say this, that this is going to be driven by a very high power media, because that's how we're going to tell our story. And this is all in line with the SDG, from education to climate change to women and girl inclusion and all of that. It's a very balanced system program that I think Africans should look out for. Is going to transform the land.
Yeah, Mr. Kunobe, I'll just stay with you. I hear you say Africa, 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 and of course the name of the program is Elevate Africa, but people would say that charity should begin at home. So I wonder why it's not Nigeria, but just hold your thoughts for a bit before you tell us why it's not Elevate Nigeria, but Elevate Africa. I'll just turn to our viewers to say, our viewers on DSTV, we will be handing you over now to Delta State, where there's a closing ceremony of the 8th National Youth Games. It's holding at Stephen Keshi Stadium in Asaba, Delta State capital. So that's for our DSTV viewers, but our viewers on our UK platform as well as our local stations, we're staying on this conversation. So Mr. Kunobi, I was asking, why Elevate Africa? Shouldn't we start from home, Elevate Nigeria, or probably even Elevate Delta State, as we have seen?
So I like the way His and Her Royal Majesty say it, is from worry to the world. And the truth is that Africa is a continent of kings and a continent of kingdoms and nobles across the continent. And what they've committed to is to exemplify, as Dr. Akinpelu has said, transformational leadership. And in order for us to achieve the goals that we require, we need to build a bridge across the continent, strengthen how we exchange knowledge, capabilities, and also trade and commerce. And so we cannot do it alone. We have to be collaborative, build strong partnerships and alliances across the continent. From the global perspective, Nigeria is seen as just one country or one nation among the committees of nations. But it's important when we are able to band together as a bloc across the continent, and then we will then look and appear stronger when we engage on a global stage.
All right, so let's know the speakers. Let me just stay with you there, Mr. Kunebe. Who are the speakers? What's the theme? We know it's all about Africa and the world, reshaping, transformation. But what would be the focus and who are the speakers?
So we have a large contingent of speakers. One of them is Her Excellency, former President of Mauritius, Amina Gurib Fakim. And then we'll also have the former president of Vice President of Liberia, Her Excellency Madam Joel Taylor. We have the Vice President of the Chandler Foundation, Tim Hanstad, going to be with us. And we have a number of other dignitaries from across the world. We are having Kim Schofield from the U.S., as well, a young
Mayor.
A young senator, and all of that. We have such people coming in and are going to be part of the entire program. CEOs from across the continent representing countries like Zambia. We are having a senior advisor coming in from Zambia. We are having senior people coming in from Kenya. We are having others from other parts of the world, the US, Netherlands, and all of that. So it's going to be a robust conversation, and of course, a great deal of representation from the country itself. We'll have the First Lady will also be present, and of course our host, His Royal Majesty Ogiame Atuashe III, and Her Royal Majesty Olori Atuashe III as well.
Yeah, interesting lineup there, and a lot of big names and big faces. But Dr. Akinpelu, how do we move from just the talks to the work? How do we get these talks, great ideas, to materialize and actually bring about the transformation we are talking about?
Okay, fantastic. Thank you, Ini. If you want a real transformation, you don't react, you don't anticipate, you go back to the design table. So it means that you are going to affect 3 levels before transformation comes to play. So for example, you would deal with what is called you deal with the structure or the system, you would deal with the behavioral pattern, and number 3, that takes you to the level of dealing with what is called the mental model of people. So many things that has happened to us in Africa is because we have not been able to affect the mental models of people. And that's systems thinking at work. So you look at it, you tell yourself, there's an idea to transform the African continent. You want to tell the stories. We want to ensure that the perception around Africa changes and Africa rises and all of that. So how would this happen? That's why I talked about the pillars, that were subject to what is happening on the SDG and the Agenda 2063. It starts first with a social dialogue. It starts with a conversation. With a conversation, you are affecting the minds of people. With a conversation, you are getting people aware. With a conversation, people are beginning to understand that, okay, it is time that we can't keep talking about this. Now, narrowing down the convening, I talked about what is called the fellowship program, where you're going to get a small number of people, incubate them, get them diverse kinds of facilitators, put them into lots of field works and researches for them to carry out. Then we'll begin to bring out real solutions in terms of data and from research perspective, so that from a scientific point of view, we can tell our stories better. So you see that Elevate Africa is already on the run with that kind of system and that kind of model. At the end of the day, you would find out that the mental model and the perception of how people view Africa begins to change. And you know what? It's going to be little by little, one at a time. And like I said, we are on a mission. And the mission would take some time, but we are really sure that this is going to happen, transformation on the continent of Africa.
All right, I know this is supposed to be building on the successes of Royal Iwere Foundation, which looks at social challenges in Warri kingdoms and all of that. And then you have free medicals at rural communities. Could you tell us more about some of these added programs to this?
Okay, fantastic. I would say that before it became Elevate Africa, His Royal Majesty Ogemi Atuasha III and Her Royal Majesty Olori Atuasha III, they have been vested in their communities strongly. They have invested so much, they have researched so much, and they have a lot of transformation is taking place. So, for example, you pick the SDG goal, talk about education. They've done so much around education. They've invested into early childhood form of education. They have invested into what you will call alternative schools happening. They have invested so much even in the STEM labs across Warri and Delta State. I mean, you see that it started from home. You see to talk about what Her Majesty Olori Atuasha III has done for the women, you know, through the Royal Iwere Foundation. A lot of medical outreaches have happened, helping people, you know, the scholarships that they have given to a lot of people, you know, in that same kingdom and beyond. So you see that all of these things started from the home and they have been so vested. I mean, the whole world can say, and you can tell the story, that they have been so transformative in their immediate environment. So that helps you to know that a lot is going on through the Royal Iwere Foundation and now Elevate Africa, taking it to the next level on how we can deal with policies at higher levels.
All right, let me just go to Mr. Ekunube before we round off this conversation and ask about the rationale behind the theme of this event.
Thank you, Annie. The Africa we see, everything begins with a compelling and a very strong vision. So the basis for this convening is to say, how do you see Africa? What Africa do you see? What is the future of the Africa that you see? What defines a great continent? What defines a great people? And we want to define it in terms of how we elevate leadership, how we elevate governance, how we elevate trade, how we elevate the African narrative, the African story. I remember there was some comment that was made by Philip Emeagwali where his father asked him, he said, the warrior and the story, which is greater? And he had said the warrior. The father said, no, that is the story, because the one who has the story controls your future. So it's important that Africans are able to tell their own stories and give their own narratives. So African by African. So this one, we need to say, what is the Africa we see? And hear it from leaders who have served, leaders who are currently serving, and then also to inspire the next generation of leaders and also to move things across and see what level of impact and transformation we can have on the continent. And in fact, we have to ensure that Africa has a strong voice on all global platforms.
So how do people participate in this? What opportunities do they have? What can they do, you know, to be part of it?
So the event is taking place in October. It is going to be a physical event, but it's also going to be a virtual event. So people can join virtually, but beyond that, there will be a series of engagements that will follow through after the event itself. The idea is to raise a generation of Africans who are doing transformative work across various sectors, various industries, and various jurisdictions. And then we'll create like a platform, a backbone organization that allows other frontline entities on the continent and partners and friends of the continent to then layer and then work together collaboratively, you know, to transform various communities and transform the continent. So yeah, it's a call out and a reach out to everyone to say that to take responsibility, ownership in this charge.
All right, thank you so much, gentlemen. Mr. Daniel Ikuneba, the lead consultant for Elevate Africa, and then Dr. Akinpelu, senior consultant to the Office of His Majesty Ogami Atuashe III and Her Majesty Olori Atuashe III. Thank you, and wish you the very best, you know, in your event.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Oh.